Alrighty then, it's time for a double video of Zhao and Kayn. Hooray! It's kind of funny that these two tend to be together often for these double videos. It's mostly because they're champions that can absolutely carry, and I'll gravitate towards if I need to smash people. Also, it's kind of hilarious that I'm Zhao in this first game and fighting a Kayn, so hooray. I did pick Zhao in this situation to sort of deal with them. Look at their comp. They do not really have a tank. They are all kind of, in many ways, squishy. The only real threat to me is probably Morgana and Veigar if he puts his walls down properly. So, for the most part, in the early game, I'm not too afraid of invading or picking fights or whatever. And for some reason, the Kayn goes really ham on that level, that low-level gank, which allows me just to snipe him from behind. I make sure to kill a minion, the cannon minion, to get the level up, and both him and Gangplank are just kind of trapped. They had no chance of even 2v1ing me, especially because I got level 3 off that cannon minion. So I pick myself up a very nice double kill. Now I go down mid lane against a Veigar who's playing really recklessly and should have known I probably would have come down here. And I easily pick him off too. That's 3 kills for me at 4 minutes into the game, plus a Scuttle Crab. Plus he comes back mid again, so I dive at him once more, get his flash, and I do end up dying here. Thankfully, the Anivia is able to pick up the kill on the Veigar, so it's not the worst possible outcome. Getting the double buff to Kayn again, though, is kind of bad. Of course, in my mind, I'm just thinking that I'll probably find a way to kill him again, and he just gives it to me. He was invading me, which is pretty smart, but considering how long of a time it took for me to sort of clear things, he should have guessed that just naturally I would have walked towards that location and I would have caught him. That's just Jungle Invasions 101. So, whenever you invade the jungle or whenever you're just doing anything really, this doesn't just apply to the jungle, you have to do the assumption of what would my opponent naturally be wanting to do in whatever situation they're in. In that case, I had died. So I was back at the fountain, and I would be going to wherever party my minions were or a possible gank was, right? So the king should have realized that this is taking me a while to clear. Let's just say several 10 or 15 seconds to finish off my jungle. And during that time, Zhao should have enough time to walk to my location. It is a bad idea to remain here during that time or not come up with a plan, which is why he died. And I know a lot of chaos is happening in this early game. It's pretty fun. They're kind of getting absolutely smashed. Once again, the Kayn is I think he did see me coming with a ward or something, but he's getting a little too greedy here. I know by the way out he was moving that his teammates and him know that I'm here. But if anything, it just became a bait to lure the Gangplank in, or the Veigar, and we get an easy kill against the Gangplank. Veigar's here trying to protect the red buff again, but he really should have backed away because, again, he just doesn't have the ability to deal with me or even the Anivia at this point. I did quite a bit of damage to the Kayn, but unfortunately I did not have my dash to catch up to him again. You saw how I did that, right? I stopped auto-attacking him. I positioned myself in a way that the explosive plant would put me next to him in case he used it to try to finish him off. Again, though, he didn't die there, but we got the red buff, we got several kills. All in all, the enemy team is doing a very repeated mistake. They are severely underestimating our ability to destroy them. In this case, too, the Veigar thought that he and Gangplank could deal with the Aatrox and approached that in the weakest way if possible, basically one-on-one in near melee range against the Aatrox, because the Gangplank wasn't in any real position to bother helping, and he got chunked down. So that whole little thing kind of failed and allowed Anivia to control mid lane or I guess finish it off. And now you can see the disgusting CS difference between the team. Gangplank for some reason kind of forgot or just didn't pay attention to the fact that I would probably still be here given the amount of time it takes for everyone to get back. He should have gauged that I'm probably still around. You should sometimes do some kind of like mental math saying, by this point the recall should have triggered and now I can assume safely that he probably went back. Or something of that like. Or he could have checked for me with a barrel or something. Either way, my bottom lane, despite the fact that they had quite a bit of an advantage early on, got crushed. So they're our biggest issue right now, but thankfully because of how huge I am, I could possibly just annihilate the Draven before anything really goes down. I give chase against the Morgana. I end up using my ultimate and nullifying that any damage Draven could possibly do to me. Then the King gets caught, but he I don't think he actually gets killed, and then Morgana comes back alongside the Vhagar, and they position themselves in a weird way that they get stunned by the by Anivia and easily picked off. So Draven didn't need to die there. Sorry for my slur, that was a little random. But yeah, this game is, you could say it's one of those games that is done, but this is why it's a double video. It's pretty good to use an example though for the enemy team. They are, like I said, severely underestimating our capability of killing them. I think they are overestimating their damage and thus over committing to, I don't know, weird positions and such. I don't know. Again, the Kayn just kind of got destroyed there because he assumed that just because he had Draven, they could deal with the Anivia. The Draven too probably should have just backed off and maybe given the signal to Kayn that, you know, it's a pretty bad idea to be, you know, picking that fight. And this sort of kind of snowballed from the beginning because their team comp is really high roll in a sense that they have no actual tanks, no front line. They're all rather squishy. They have basically no crowd control, and they are really weak in lane with quotation marks there. Yes, they can dominate and whatnot, but you know, if players play properly, if my team plays properly, they can kind of avoid getting killed or avoid getting decimated. You know, that's what I mean by a high roll. Like, these champions want to succeed in lane, want to, you know, maintain some kind of mild domination against a team or at least not get crushed. But you can't always guarantee that. You know, like I said, if my team plays at least a little bit, you know, safe and competently, it'll become a farm fest. And since they won't have a disgusting lead, they can't overpower my team, who actually has crowd control, CC, and well, crowd control is the same thing. You know, some tanks in the front line and potential burst damage. And then because of that, they would just kind of crumble. So in short, they kind of really stacked it against themselves. We'll mostly only start struggling if we forget that our team comp is a lot stronger together, or at least in small pairs, than, you know, individually. They finally did gain some crowd control in the terms of Kayn, but you know, that's not enough, and especially considering how behind he is, it's definitely not going to achieve much. After it kind of was, honestly, and I know it's a little bit of gloating for myself, a lot has to do with me, how I dominated the early game and essentially removed the only thing they could do to tip things in their scale, or I mean into their favor, or, you know, prevent them from getting crushed. Because due to my interference, they could not dominate the early game if they had any kind of early game dominance. And thus, once they became mid-game and they didn't have any actual advantage with terms of golds or levels, they kind of faced reality of the better team composition. And at this point, it just kind of showcases itself. My team could just literally run over them. There is probably nothing they can do short of catching somebody really squishy and killing them before the rest of us collapse on them and win. Hell, we don't even have Lucian here, and you could just see that Aatrox can go in, decimate them, scatter them, and then Anivia and I could just pick up any of the stragglers or whatever. We do way too much damage now, and we make it so we won't take any damage in return. It's pretty fun, or pretty lovely, and also that was like the greatest flash possible ever in the history of the game. But yeah, in this case, the enemy team, they needed someone really fat. Hell, even a Tom might have been fine, but I don't even think so. They kind of needed someone who could engage forward. Probably an Alistair support would have been great. Probably a top lane Ornn would have been glorious. You know, sort of engaged in this weird angle, and the rest of the team sort of does whatever they need when my team is scattering about. But alas, they did not have that. Kayn also getting crushed early on put him in a huge disadvantage, because no longer do they had any pressure against my teammates to force us to, you know, respond to weird things or separate the team composition. So they have no means of taking down anyone important on my team, which allowed everybody on my team to just kind of get strong on their own accord. Even the Lucian now, despite the fact that he kind of got slapped around early game without when we weren't actually interfering, is now actually a colossal threat. But yeah, it's at this point it's just waiting for the enemy team to lose, which is coming very close. And the thing, the interesting thing, or at least something to noteworthy to talk about, is that the Kayn game is eerily similar. Hooray for Xin Zhao in this case, but now on to Kayn. Alright, so once again, this time both team compositions seem a little bit more fair, although my team comp does not have an actual frontline tank. And also the Amumu shouldn't have let me do that, because now, since those changes a while back as Kayn, that actually gave me 1/4 of my transformation thing, so that was pretty good. And every team comp lacks something that might not be very clear early on. The Kassadin can engage alongside the Amumu, but overall the enemy team comp their approach to fights is a little weird. Amumu's gonna want to come in and slingshot himself, but I know the Kai'Sa has a little dash forward, but the enemy team will have a really weird time trying to capitalize on, the engage, which my team is also pretty good at slipping around and avoiding getting completely destroyed. Early on, though, unlike the last game, this one's going a little bit more in their favor, or not in their favor, more even. You already saw there was a kill back and forth. Right now, I'm not completely dominating like I was in the last game, just kind of farming up. This game I'm going Ross, I believe, because the anime Kayn would have actually been pretty good, but I would have been very, very much afraid of the enemy Garen. I do some harassment attack on the Kassadin, not intending to actually kill him, but dealing half his health and damage alongside the Fizz is pretty damn good. And at this point, I'm also completely controlling the jungle, because I don't know what the Amumu was doing, but he scattered it around and made it very easy to steal from him. So I steal 2 camps, and I'm gauging in my head how much time it's going to take to actually clear these. So you could see me sort of try to gravitate towards the right to immediately make a huge escape, and then you see a Amumu running through his jungle just in time for, to be disappointed. So Harry, for me, I have quite the lead in terms of jungle prowess or power against the Amumu. And like I said, it's pretty much quite of an even game. However, the Kassadin is being bullied out by the Fizz, and for some reason, the Kassadin thought he could take down on Aatrox, even though he wasn't level 6. So he pretty much just fed Aatrox. And yeah, that's kind of a grave setter. He's pretty much donezo. I was trying to invade the Amumu here. I take the Scuttle, and this is actually a pretty bad play by me. I go in holding my ultimate because I thought I would be able to use it last second to try to dodge something, but nah, I got CC locked and destroyed. So that was pretty bad in my part. 3 and 8 though, and it's mostly highly due to mid lane and top lane just kind of losing. In the terms of top lane, apparently as they were fighting in all chat, he was severely underestimating the Aatrox and constantly tried to engage on him with a classic Garen, Q, E into the thing, but the Aatrox easily dodged a lot of his attacks and destroyed him. And the Amumu, I think he was overestimating the amount of damage his teammates could do, so he basically got punished in that regard. The Garen was in no position to actually help him, and even if he was, I think they would have lost a 2v2 there. So yeah, at this point, it sort of became a really bad gamble by my teammates, and thus they lost. Bottom lane, I don't know what really went down there, but I assume as part of what all chat was going about, that the bottom lane Kaisa and Tarek were being a little too aggressive, and Caitlyn and Karma are like the kings or queens, of poking people and staying safe, so they got punished for their hubris. And is that not just the theme of the first game and this game? Team players, again, extremely underestimating the potential of their opponents to just absolutely kill them. In this same regard, the Kaisa and the Kassadin are going to go straight onto the Kayn, who she just got shot, and they thought they'd chase her down, but this allows me to flank them from behind, do quite a bit of damage to the Kassadin, and then dunk him with my ultimate and the blue smite. Well, I think the Kayn gets a kill. Then we give a weird chase to the Kaisa, who decides, you know what, I'm about to die, maybe I can take out the Kayn, but no. And now the Kayn with a Zeal and a BF sword, a boyfriend sword, I'm the boyfriend in this case I think, is annihilating towers. And again, I'm showing the enemy Tarek that just because I'm kind of low doesn't mean you can get, or you're behind a tower doesn't mean I can't go in there and damage you for quite a bit. That basically forced him to get low, and he tried defending and then getting killed anyways by the Fizz. So it was actually pretty good trade in my part, going in, so I was going to go back anyways. But yeah, 3-18. The enemy team is pretty much donezo. And again, broken record time. They lost it because they got overconfident, and they fed characters they shouldn't be getting fed. So our strong mid game came way earlier than should have, and I don't know what their team combo is trying to achieve. because it seems like an early mid dominating team composition, hopefully allowing Kaiser to become super strong. But they didn't get any of that. And it's mostly, again, they lost it because they underestimated the team. Especially Garen. Holy shit, the amount of rage that went into the all chat because of Garen was pretty considerable. But yeah. Well, the game is done. Both games are done, and they were pretty similar. And I know my team kind of just dominating. It was pretty one-sided. But to be honest, that's kind of how games are right now. And they really can't show very much of anything else. Except that Gragas game. That was a pretty fair game. So, hooray! And if you liked this video, remember to give it a like. And if you aren't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. And if you are subscribed, make sure to hit the little bell up there somewhere so you actually get notifications to my videos because YouTube and stuff.